Hi, this is Dwight Clow from theeasybible.com. I'm here today to talk to pastors. If you're not a pastor, I would appreciate it if you could share this video with your pastor, because I'm here today to talk about the enormous power that pastors have to change our world. Pastors, every Sunday morning when you stand before your congregation, and it doesn't matter whether you're speaking to 10 people or 10,000, you have the raw ingredients you need right in front of you to turn your world upside down. Now, I know that's going to sound grandiose to some people, but I really believe it's true, and this is why. I'm going to use an example, someone we all know, Jesus Christ. Even from a secular perspective, Jesus Christ is arguably the most influential person who has ever lived. Stop and think about it. For the last 2,000 years, literally billions of people have devoted their lives to following His commands, pursuing a relationship with Him. Theology aside, how did this happen? What strategies did Jesus employ that literally shaped history for the last 2,000 years? How did He do it? Did He create some kind of clever ad campaign? Was He backed by powerful sponsors? Did He post some video that went viral? Now, we all know that He didn't have and didn't do any of those things. Instead, He did the last thing you might imagine. He hung out with ordinary people and taught them. Who were His disciples? A couple of fishermen, a tax collector, a guy from a failed political movement. Hardly impressive. Yet with a handful of ordinary followers, He transformed the Roman Empire and ultimately left His mark on the entire world. 2,000 years later, His influence is still growing. So what do you have? Pastor, you have in front of you week after week exactly the same thing that Jesus had. Ordinary people. I firmly believe that the people you have in your congregation have the same power to change their world that Jesus' disciples had to change theirs. Today I want to talk with you about how you can tap into that power, how you can energize it, and how you can release it to accomplish incredible good. I want to talk with you about the 5 leadership messages that you can incorporate into any sermon you ever preach. These leadership messages come in the form of 5 questions you can answer week after week. I call this the pastor's Sunday morning checklist. 5 leadership messages to incorporate in your preaching. Here's the first one. Who are we? Pastor, you need to answer this question over and over and over again for the people entrusted into your care. Who are we? I'll tell you why that's important. We act from our identity. By reminding your people who they are as individuals and who they are as a congregation, you reinforce their God-given identity and all the behaviors that go with it. So who are we? We are, every one of us, modeled after God Himself, designed to make a difference, created to live forever. I like what somebody said, Jesus didn't die for junk. We may be unworthy of all God has done for us, but we are not worthless. The Son of God did not trade His life for garbage. In Christ, we are the indestructible, undefeatable sons and daughters of God. We have an audience with God Himself anytime we want. Now, I don't want to mess with your theology, but let me suggest something. Some people identify themselves as sinners, and I agree that sin is real and that sin is a problem. But sin is the damage to our identity, not our identity itself. Because of the work of God, we have a much higher identity. And from that identity springs everything good that anyone has ever done. So leadership message number 1, who are we? Message number 2, where are we going? What's the vision? Where are you going? What does mission accomplished look like? Great achievements are inspired by a compelling vision. When you paint a picture of what could be, your people are inspired. But you gotta help them see it. And here's what I would encourage you: to make your vision big enough and inclusive enough. It's gotta be big enough to include what God has put in the hearts of the people sitting in front of you. Listen to their dreams. Ask God for some imagination. What would happen if the true potential of my congregation were really released? And I'm not going to answer that question for you, but I will tell you that it goes way beyond a new building, a new program, or a few extra people. Hopefully your vision goes way beyond what happens for 1 hour in one place on a Sunday morning. Every week, paint a picture of the vision. Let your people see the finish line. And then leadership message number 3, remind them why it matters. Why are we going there? Why is this important? Why does it matter? What's at stake? I write and publish the Easy Bible, and I want to get the Easy Bible into the hands of every person in America that's sitting on the fence trying to decide what to do about the Christian faith. And every day I remind myself why it matters. What's at stake? People have no idea how good God is. I want to tell them. I want people to know what it's like to have a friendship with God. That matters to me. And I think it matters to God. And that's why I do what I do. How about you? What's at stake for your church? What's at stake for your people? And that brings us to leadership message number 4. How are we going to get there? What's our strategy? What practical steps are we going to take to get from where we are right now to where we want to be? You know, a lot of people have dreams, but most people are clueless on how to make those dreams a reality. You gotta give your people something practical they can do today, this week, to achieve their God-given dreams. When you tell people how, you empower them. You make it possible for them to go out and change their world. And finally, leadership message number 5. What progress are we celebrating? How are the people in your church advancing God's kingdom wherever they are all 168 hours of the week? And this is so important. Your people are laboring away, trying to make a difference, but believing that they've been forgotten, that maybe what they're doing doesn't matter. They get discouraged. They need a cheerleader. They need to know that someone is rooting for them. So what are they doing? If you don't know, find out. And then celebrate it during your sermon on Sunday morning. You gotta talk about it. You gotta validate it. That doesn't mean that everybody is necessarily doing everything right or that the church officially endorses everything everybody's doing. But it does mean that the fledgling efforts of the members of your congregation matter, that you and the church see them, and that you care, and that you're cheering for them. You know, there's 2 ways to do church. The pastor can do all the work, or the pastor can empower and release the people to accomplish what one person could never accomplish alone. If you want to be the latter, you've got to be a cheerleader for your people. 5 leadership messages. Make them part of the fabric of every sermon you preach. Who are we? Where are we going? What's at stake? How are we going to get there? And what progress are we celebrating? I leave you with this verse from Ephesians 3:20 in the Easy Bible. What can you imagine? How big can you think? God thinks bigger. He plans better. He accomplishes more. Already He's at work inside you and me, all of us. You want to ask Him for something? Ask big, because you're dealing with a big God.